Hello and welcome to Sunday Run Day, the podcast. First off, I'd like to apologise for not having an episode out last week. As I mentioned on Instagram, me and Clara went away to run in the Sunshine Coast Marathon. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really have the time while we were away to be able to record the podcast. And then coming back during the week, I wanted to make sure that I did put a really good episode together and also wanted to share my insight and stories about the Sunshine Coast Marathon. So that's why I've recorded it and released it this weekend. So first thing first, I will say, yes, I did go to the Sunshine Coast Marathon with all the views and visions of running that sub 3. I'm not going to drag it out and I'm going to let you guys know I didn't quite make it. My final time in Sunshine Coast was 3 hours, 1 minute and 35 seconds. So yeah, just missed out. 1 minute 35 seconds doesn't seem like quite a lot, but over 42 kilometers it is quite a bit to be able to put through to get over that line and finish sub 3. I'm not disappointed, I'll be honest. I've said it before. I can never be disappointed with running a marathon. I got the opportunity to be able to run. I really enjoyed the run, and I didn't quite have it in me to go sub 3, but still I got a personal best as well. It was my best ever marathon time, so I can see the improvement. I'm slowly improving bit by bit, and to take 2 minutes off from a marathon that only in May that I run up in Noosa, and then obviously coming down to Sunshine Coast and running at a 3 at 1:35 and dropping 2 minutes off that personal best, I'm really happy, to be honest. And of course, I really want to do that sub 3 for a couple reasons. One reason, actually to do it, to actually finally say I ran a marathon under 3 hours. It's been a goal for mine for quite some time, but also to feel confident and comfortable about hopefully getting into Boston. Now I am hopeful that my time of 3:01:35 will be enough to get me into Boston. I guess we just won't know, and I'll find out in September. I'm lucky enough, I've got a time I can apply, and fingers crossed I get into Boston, but we shall see. Everyone out there is improving so much and we all have those different goals. And there was a goal I wanted to make. I know I'm going to get there. I know I'm going to run a sub 3. I'm not sure when. And maybe the stars will align. And running in Melbourne later on in the year, maybe that's where I'll run sub 3. I can certainly say I won't be running a sub 3 in Sydney. I'm going to Sydney to really enjoy that run with Clara and get a little bit of redemption for myself, not being able to cross that finish line with her, but going up there, run with Clara and have a great time and not really thinking about trying to push myself. I think I put myself under a lot of pressure to try and do that. And there's the nerves, definitely the nerves to try and do it, and yeah, just missing out. And I say, not disappointed, just actually super happy with my time, super happy with the race, and yeah, there's always the next one to move on to. So a little bit about Clara as well. Clara also ran a personal best. Now, as I've mentioned in other episodes, when I talk about Clara's running, I am just in awe. I'm so impressed with her. She's running super well at the moment, and she actually managed to do a 3 hours 19 and 19 seconds, which is just phenomenal. First time cracking that 3:20. She ran super well and really enjoyed it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about her first, and then I'll talk a little bit about my run. So Clara doesn't really ever have a plan when it comes to running these events. She always sets herself little goals, and she thinks to herself the day of the race is what she's going to do. So we had a little chat the day before. We weren't really sure what was, either of our plans. We both talked about different plans and different running strategies, but we don't really have anything solid. So in the morning, I sort of said to Clara, right, what's the plan? How are you going to go out there today? What sort of time you hoping for? How you feeling? How's your body feeling? All of that sort of stuff. So we went over the conversation and really talked about it. So Clara said to me, her plan's going to run with the 3:15 pacer. She thought to herself, I want to run with the person that's going to pace people to run 3 hours and 15 minutes, and hopefully I'll run 3 hours 15 minutes. But if not, I want to see how long I can stay with them. Now, a little bit of a funny story. We get to the start line and we see the pacer for 3 hours 15 minutes. Now at the event they had a pacer for every 15 minutes. So they started at 3 hours, then 3:15, 3:30 and so on. And they had two pacers for each time. So we met one of the 3 hour 15 pacers there, super nice guy, and had a little chat with him because Clara was wondering of what his strategy was. And when it comes to long distance running, for me, of learning a lot about it, I learn a lot about strategies. And I hear that people have strategies for whether it's doing negative splits, even splits, positive splits, whatever it might be, you have that strategy, whether it's a strategy that you break the race down in 5K, 10K, half marathon, whatever it might be. So Clara wanted to understand his strategy because then she wanted to know how he's running, just so she has that idea of how she's running along. So I spoke to him and he mentioned that he's going to do even splits, try and stick around that 4 minute 35 pace throughout the whole race. And then he was actually really informative as well, which actually helped me, to be honest. He was mentioning about the course and saying there's a couple hills. He's saying coming back where we meet up with the half marathoners, it might get a little bit tricky. So, we'll prepare for that. And the last part of the race is where it's going to be the toughest. So I thought, oh, that's really good information. So Clara had all that information. She said hello to him, and I actually left Clara. I was going to go closer to the front to try and be quite close to the front to get myself into that groove straight away. So wished her good luck, and off we went. So when Clara started running, she obviously was part of the group, carrying on running, and then she got to a point where the other 3-hour 15 pacer just started creeping in front. Well, Clara thought she was feeling good, so she decided to go along with this pacer, but not knowing this person's strategy. So we already talked to the other guy, and he told us the strategy, told us what he was doing, and then Clara decided to go along with the other person. She doesn't know why, she just felt good, she thought, I'm just going to run. She mentioned obviously later on in the race, there was a group of women with her as well, and they started to drop off from the pacer. We actually found out afterwards that this pacer, I think he finished around 3 hours 13 minutes, 3 hours 12 minutes. So, congratulations to him. He managed to get those people over, but maybe that was a little bit too quick for Clara to be able to keep up with. So she mentioned she struggled towards the end. She did then see the other 3-hour 15 pacer come past her, but she still pushed forward. She got there, and she's still done a personal best, taken nearly 4 minutes off of her other time that she got earlier in Boston. So it's a massive achievement, an amazing run-in. So I'm always super proud of her, and she just had a great race. But part of the race that was the best part for Clara, and it was just such a cool story, I have to share it. And I hope other people out there that run the race and was running around Clara at the same time, seen it and enjoyed that moment as well. It has to be the most Australian race ever. Like, you think of Australia, you always think of, Sydney Opera House, Harbour Bridge, all the monuments, but then you start thinking the animals, the koalas, the kangaroos, right? So think about this. As Cara's running, she's coming, I think it was around about probably about 27k maybe. Around about 27k, she said in this area there was a kangaroo that just started jumping across the road and then just running right next to the runners, just bouncing along, probably for maybe 200 meters, just next to the runners, and then just dived off into the bush. And Clara was just saying how cool that was in that moment. It was, early morning, it was around 8 o'clock in the morning at that time maybe, and just the kangaroo out there just bouncing along, looking at all these runners, probably thinking, geez, what are these guys doing? And the kangaroo bounced along for a little bit and then just jumped off. It has to be the most Australian thing ever about a race. So that was super cool. It was such a great experience. And when Clara told me that, it was such an amazing story and stuff that we look at those sort of things when we're racing and we're out there running. We always look at the environment and what we've seen, and to have, an animal just around there and a kangaroo at that, just jumping along on the side of the road, it's a pretty cool experience. So yeah, I wanted to share that experience that Clara mentioned, and yeah, she had a great race and she really enjoyed it. So then talking about my race, as I said at the start of the race, I went down to the front, and I was around the group with a lot of the 3-hour pacers. Also, I was listening to a lot of the chat. I was listening to people talking to each other, that they all knew each other, asking what sort of pace they were going at. And there was a group of people that were talking around about doing the 3 hours. So I thought I'm going to go with them. I'm going to just see how I feel and see if they're going to run at the similar pace that I want to. I kind of had a little bit of a strategy in my head, but also no strategy. Is kind of see how I feel, see how long I can keep it up for. And my kind of strategy was to kind of keep around that 4-minute 10 pace. Just for as long as I can. I know later on in a race I tire. Every marathon I've ever done, I tire later on, and I understand that. And I'm improving. I'm maybe not tiring as much as I used to in previous races. So I thought to myself, let's see how long I can keep that pace for. And I was with a group of people that were running really well, and I just enjoyed that. There's about 5 of us. There was a couple women in there and a couple guys and myself, and there's about 5 of us just running, and we probably ran together for around about 24, 25 kilometers, and it was a really nice group of people, all at that sort of pace. Yeah, we had a couple quick kilometers, maybe a little bit too quick as we come down one of these hills. It's a little bit too quick, but in general, I was really enjoying running with that group of people. And I will mention there's this woman that she was running super well, and I just thought to myself, I see how long I can keep up with her, because she seemed like she was flying. And I seen at the end, she done around 2:52. So yeah, she was flying. She ran really well. And I kind of lost that group. I think one of them dropped off a little bit behind me, and then the others, pushed on a little bit. And at the time, it was probably around about 28 kilometers, and I just didn't quite have it in me to continue at that pace. But I was still feeling good. They probably were still running around, 4:05 pace, where I dropped back to maybe that 4:10 consistently. And then, yeah, I obviously just pushed through, and then got to the stage where we met the half marathon runners. It was about 7 kilometers, and I thought that was probably going to be more difficult and challenging than it was, as in the amount of people, not necessarily the time of the race. I already knew that would be a challenge for me. The last sort of 7K, I knew my legs will feel tired and my pace will drop off, and hoping that my pace didn't drop off that much. But I thought maybe meeting with those sort of half marathon runners, there's a massive group of them, I thought maybe that would be the challenge. But hats off to all of them. They were running really well. They were super respectful. And I think as well that the time I sort of come in, the group of half marathon runners were probably running a very similar pace to me. Yeah, I pushed through a little bit on some of them that I might have been running a bit quicker, but I thought a lot of them are running a very similar pace. So it didn't feel very congested. It felt quite an easy run there, and quite accessible to keep going. So yeah, pushed through, and I would say it was about 3 kilometers to go. And I knew that I have to push a little bit harder. I thought to myself, if I do want to go under 3 hours, I do need to push a bit harder. And I kind of started to pick up my pace a little bit, but then I felt my legs. I felt those, not quite cramps yet, but a little bit of cramping that you feel that if you push that bit too hard, you're probably going to feel that cramp. So I thought, if I do that, maybe I'll actually get cramp, and I'll be so far past, 3, or maybe 3:05, 3:10 or something. It could be really bad. So I thought, now continue as you are and see if you can pick it up, maybe with 2 kilometers to go. And it wasn't to be. I just couldn't really pick up that pace. Well, 1 kilometer to go, I thought, you got to give it everything you got. And I did. I gave it everything I could. Did put in a good quick kilometer at the end there, quicker than the last sort of 5-6 kilometers. I knew it wasn't enough to go under 3, but I wanted to get as close as I could, and I was super happy. As I say, 3:01:35, I was really happy. And then I crossed that finish line again. I felt that I couldn't put weight on my legs. I felt tired, and that was a sign for me that I thought I gave it everything, and I'm happy. Yeah, of course I wanted to go under 3. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but I gave it everything, and I got to the finish line thinking I had a good race there. And the course was amazing, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So the course from last year, when me and Clara went, we went up to Sunshine Coast last year to run that, and I will say that it's probably the reason why I wanted to go back, because it's a special event. Last year Clara was able to get her Boston qualifying time and got the opportunity to run in Boston this year, which was all part of that Sunshine Coast Marathon. So I think that's why it means a little bit more to us and why we wanted to go back. Now last year it was a multi-lap course. We had to do sort of 1 big lap and then 2 smaller laps, whereas this year it was a 1-lap course. So kind of, for me, after running Noosa, where it was a 4-lap course, definitely played into my advantage. I definitely prefer just a 1 lap. Even if you do come back on the road the same bit, it's not really looking at the same thing for 2 or 3, 4 times. So it was a 1-lap course where they changed it. But also the reasons behind it a little bit is that they're actually going to have this course as the 2032 Olympic marathon course. So when the Olympics are here in Australia, in Brisbane, in 2032, the Sunshine Coast is actually going to hold the marathon, and it's just amazing. I was just like, how cool is that? That we got the first opportunity to run this course before the Olympic athletes there. So, thanks to us guys, we're out there trialing a few, and we'll give you some good feedback. But yeah, we really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good course. There was only one section for me, and even for Clara was the same, that was hard mentally. So it was a little windy out there. I'll say that there was a good amount of wind, but works against you, but also works in your favor. You get the tailwind and you get the headwind. So I think it's around, maybe 16 kilometers, from memory. You come onto the freeway. Now, it does seem a really long time where you're running on the freeway, you're going down for about 1.5 kilometers, and you turn around and you're running for around about another 5 to 6 kilometers. And it just seemed like a long time on the freeway. And I completely understand the course. I completely understand, obviously, all the work that goes into trying to make the course, and with road closures and all of that. I think just mentally it's difficult when you're somewhere and you're not seeing anything different for a while, and it does seem like a long distance from when you especially had that turnaround to how far you had to go. So I didn't really enjoy that, but I don't think generally many people enjoy being on the same bit where it kind of feels like you're going nowhere. You're looking around and it looks exactly the same on this straight bit of road. But it was a relatively flat and fast course. It was organized super well. The organization was amazing. Thankfully, for me, I didn't get lost. I had many people to follow, so not like Iceland, but it was just signposted really well. It was just, everything just worked out really good. The flow of everything was amazing. And I think the organizers done an amazing job. And to be the Olympics, 2032 marathon and, Paralympic marathon course as well, it's amazing. Like, it's absolutely awesome. And it's a great part of the world. It's only sort of an hour and a half away from Brisbane. And yeah, it's just beautiful. The weather was great. So conditions, it was cold in the morning, being winter in Australia, but not too cold, just, cold enough that you did take a little bit longer to warm up. And yeah, it was a little bit windy, but in general, the conditions were good. The sun came out towards the end and it did start warming up for the day. So we got to enjoy the sunshine. But no, I did really enjoy it, and I did enjoy the course. But one thing that I will mention, and I think sometimes, when we're doing these events, we sometimes forget about the volunteers, and we rely on them so much. We really do. When we're running the marathon on these events, we really rely on those volunteers. That the aid stations, at the end, with even handing out your medals, even there with the the bananas, the oranges, the water, electrolytes, all of that. We really do rely on these volunteers. And even the day before, when you're at the expo, maybe picking up your bib or picking up the t-shirt, and I really think that what made the Sunshine Coast really special is the volunteers were part of the community, and it felt really tight-knit community, and I love that. You felt a part of something. You felt running the marathon wasn't only just running it for yourself, but you felt part of the community. And we talk about the running community and how much I love the running community and how much we build each other up and try and support each other, but also the community, the local community up there in the Sunshine Coast. The volunteers were just building people up and just trying to make everyone enjoy the event. And I really think everyone did. I look there and I see so many smiles on people's faces. Yeah, there's the agony towards the end where it's hurting and you're trying to push through, but you get to the finish line, regardless if you've got your personal best, if you've got a time that you're happy with or not. I still see so many people just happy at the finish line there. And that's amazing. And just, as I say, the finish line is an amazing place to be. And I get to be there a little bit to watch a few people cross the finish line, and it's just a really cool place to be. And just to see so many people happy, I think that's amazing. But the volunteers are really special. And I want to big a shout out to a couple aid stations, because I felt these two aid stations just stood out to me so much because of the people and maybe the time that you needed it. So the first aid station I mentioned was on the freeway. As I said, it felt long. It felt like a long time on the freeway. But there was this aid station that had sort of a lot of what I'd say islanders over here in Australia, maybe some New Zealanders, Samoans, that sort of group of people there. And they were just full of energy, and it was awesome. And it was probably at a time you needed it. You didn't see much for a while. You were just, hitting that bitumen, running along and with a group of people. And there was this water station, and they were just full of energy, full of encouragement, full of support. And I was just like, that is awesome. Just put a smile on your face. It takes your mind off of it. You may be hurting, you may be struggling, whatever it might be. And you just see an aid station like that, super supportive, super energetic, giving you water, giving you that encouragement. And I think, yeah, hats off to them. That was amazing. And I really enjoyed it. And we got to pass them twice. So once as we went down and then coming back. And it was probably around about 32, 33 kilometers. Just as you come past them again, you kind of go back on, and that's where you meet the half marathon runners. It was just, yeah, you kind of felt like, I needed that. I needed that encouragement. And they were looking at people's names on their bib and giving them encouragement. And I thought that was really special. And then the other aid station, it was just out after we'd done the freeway. You then come off the freeway and you go out to this another section, and it was a really beautiful area. And there was an aid station full of some older ladies there, and they, again, bundle of energy and just so supportive. And you just kind of think, like, these people are there volunteering on early Sunday morning, and they're all part of the community. You can see there's a group of them that is, group of their community, and they're out there supporting these people and supporting us. And I think that's so amazing. It's something that we may not talk about enough, may not build them up enough and thank them enough. I try to be, as thankful as I can, but your words are coming out very little when you're at 32 kilometers and you're struggling. But they were just full of energy as well, handing out water. They were making sure they were coming on the other side of the road with some water when there was less runners coming through, to make sure everyone had the opportunity to get water or electrolytes, whatever you needed. And just encouragement, and just dancing away there, having music on there. So, and I think that was amazing. That's what makes it special. And I think I've probably not talked about that before. When we've done these events, we have these aid stations, we have these people out there, giving up their time for us and supporting us and giving us water. It was really cool. And then, as I say, across the finish line, they had the local school there with the young kids there giving out the medals. And I thought that was a really nice touch. And I think, definitely felt, very much part of the community, and felt very family orientated event, and just right by the beach. You can't ask for anything better. So all in all, absolutely enjoyed Sunshine Coast. Had a great time there. Me and Clara really enjoyed it, and we both got PBs, so we can't complain. I'm not quite there on the sub 3 hour, but I know it's going to happen. I'm getting closer every time. I'm chipping away little by little. So who knows? Next time I've only got to take off 1:35. Maybe my tactics will improve a little bit more. But now, thoroughly enjoyed it, and now looking forward to Sydney. We have Sydney coming up. We may have done a little bit more this year than any other year, but with Sydney being the first time it's a marathon major, we're super excited to be there, and we know a few people out there running Sydney as well. So I'm hoping to get some more people on the show in the coming weeks, and share their stories and share their insights into Sydney as well coming up. But that's it for me this week. Just wanted to debrief about Sunshine Coast Marathon. Super enjoyed it, great event. Not quite there at the sub 3, but still a PB for both me and Clara, and we had an amazing time. And just to wrap it up, I definitely recommend this event. So it's going to be the Olympic Marathon course in 2032. Really cool course, great community, lots of fun. So anyone fancies doing it, I highly recommend the Sunshine Coast Marathon. But that's all this week, and as always, until next time, happy running.